What's up, fiends? This is Rikk, and you're watching The Pumpkin Patch. Alright, guys, so I think this is a little bit of a different video for me, but today being our Lord and Savior's birthday, Glenn Danzig, I wanted to do a little bit of a, review or shout out to them or what have you. It doesn't take a genius to know that I am very affected by the Misfits, specifically the Danzig era. However, I do appreciate and enjoy the Graves era, and dare I say it, some of the Jerry Only era. Please do not revoke my horror punk card. Anyways, I thought I would do a small review of the two vinyl that I have by the Misfits, the ones that I really needed for my collection. I don't have a huge vinyl collection. Primarily, I like buying CDs and digital because I never really listen to the vinyl anyway, and there's not a lot of space to hold them. However, I did feel it necessary to get these two because they are two of my favorite Misfits releases, specifically from that era. So the first one is going to be the Halloween EP, although it is a bootleg. As I've said before, Halloween is my favorite Misfits song, and the aesthetic of the artwork, just the direction that song has and maybe allowed for other bands to really pick up on in the horror punk and horror rock genres. It's very influential to me. As I've said before, this song was covered by AFI, and that's definitely how I found the Misfits. So here's the 7-inch that I have. As I said, it is a bootleg, unfortunately. The original is very, very pricey, but it does have the cool artwork on the front with that classic, pumpkin on there. This rad shot of all of the guys. This was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the first release that Doyle was on. So it actually includes him on the photo. And then on the back it has the lyrics for Halloween 2, which is the second side. On the inside, they actually had the lyrics for Halloween 1, which is pretty cool. This is a pretty classic representation of that as well. And then I'm not sure if the original was pressed on orange vinyl, but the bootleg has been, which is pretty cool. I think it's just a good addition to the entire aesthetic overall. As I said, I am a huge fan of that pumpkin artwork. I also really enjoy hearing other bands cover this track. Like I said, AFI. I have a 7-inch of a band called The Hookers. They're like a thrashy punk band, and they have the exact same artwork and everything, and they just have their image on the front, and they do a cover of the song on it. Alkaline Trio's done a cover of it. My band, JXV, has covered it previously live. It's just an all-around great track. Even the second one, Halloween 2, is really cool. It takes the same vibe of the first one, just kind of cranks it down, makes it a little bit slower and a little bit spookier, more death rock-ish, kind of in the vein of like Samhain, and has some Latin stuff that Danzig's talking over it. So the second record that I'm going to talk about is Stag Static Age. Now with this one, I believe it was intended to be released back in the day, back in the 70s, or late 70s, and they didn't end up releasing it. If I'm mistaken, feel free to comment. They didn't end up releasing it, and once Jerry was able to get the rights to it, they released it later, in like the 90s or the early 2000s. 1997, it was re-released. It was actually released. So with this one, this is the artwork for it. It has this classic image of the original lineup Misfits back when it was Danzig, Jerry Only, Franchi Coma, Mr. Jim. This was even before Bobby Steele was in the band. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. It could have been afterwards. But yeah, this artwork is cool. It's like to me, it's very like Alfred Hitchcock to me. And it has like them pre-Devilock, very like glamish. They're like really classic logo rather than the Famous Monsters magazine rip that they did. That's their like quintessential logo. They had this one. And then the inside, they had this, which has a little bit about it. Yeah, it says they were using the label name Blank at the time, and Mercury gave the band 30 hours of free recording time in order to garner rights for use of the label name. The band was literally given a graveyard shifts at the studio, and most of the basic tracks were cut in the first 2 sessions. Approximately half that time was used to get the sound levels up on the board, which was left very little time for the actual tracking. Therefore, the band had to do the best they could with each of the 17 songs in only a few takes. Yeah. I don't know. I really dig this version, or these versions of the songs. This was actually I think the second full album that I heard by the Misfits. The first being Collection 1. But at that time, I was in high school. I wasn't really, I didn't appreciate them as much as I do now because of the recording quality. But these ones had a really good quality to them because they were remastered. They have my favorite. This release has my favorite tracks on it, and that is Return of the Fly, which is like my after Halloween. It's Return of the Fly and Vampira, and I don't know. This is the only release that I found with Return of the Fly on it. The 12 Hits from Hell has all my other all my other favorites, Halloween and Vampire, but doesn't have this one. So I'm really glad that I have this in my collection. And yeah, like I said, just the recording quality of it sounds really good. If you want to take a look at the vinyl, just has the classic logo on there and the track listing. This one's just a regular black. I've been thinking about getting that 12 Hits from Hell vinyl as well, just because that's my other favorite release that's that I've found on vinyl. I know that it's not that expensive, so I've been thinking about getting that as well. Anyways, what do you guys think? What are your favorite Misfits tracks? I know that the impact of the Misfits has, really created a community, this horror punk community, horror rock community. Without them, none of us would be posting videos about this. I wouldn't, have a lot of the things that I'm into, especially, like this crazy tattered up Misfits t-shirt that I wear almost all the time. Yeah. And aside from that, happy birthday to Mr. Glenn Anzalone, aka Glenn Danzig. I know he's not going to be watching this, but praise be to Danzig. Alright guys, I'll catch you guys later. This is Rick or Treat, and this has been the Pumpkin Patch.